Welcome to Calvin, the Digital Creative School. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to not Blender. I wanted to say Blender. I'm so used to using Blender all the time. Today we're going to do a Resolve in Fusion beginner course. That means I'm going to show you all the basics that you need to know to edit video in Fusion, in Resolve, I mean, and composite in Fusion. So yeah, we're going to go through all the basics for the first hour. I'm going to show you all the basics, and then the second hour, I'm basically going more into depth on whatever you guys want to learn more about. So yeah, it's going to get interactive. I see Cameron, I see Vistris. Hey guys, what's up? Thanks for joining. Do you see anyone who joined through Meetup? I posted this event also on meetup.com as an event. I'm wondering how many people came from there. I also noticed I think my camera is pretty yellow. Is it just me, or am I really yellow right now? So yellow. All right, so I'm gonna looking good. Thank you. I'm gonna just slowly get started. I'm just gonna tell you guys a little bit more about Resolve, what it can do, until we wait for a few more people to show up from the meetup.com, and then I'm gonna go into the program and show you. All right. Yeah, let me just tell you a little bit about Resolve. So here is the website. If you don't have Resolve yet, you can actually download and install it completely for free. Just go to blackmagicdesign.com and then you'll find the link to Resolve somewhere, or just Google Resolve and you'll find this page very quickly. If you click on this button, you can actually, I've got it all in German, but wait, actually, I can switch to English. One sec, yeah. New Zealand, Korea, where is United States? Let's go United Kingdom, why not? All right. So you can download it completely for free here if you use DaVinci Resolve 19. The studio version costs something, but it's also a pretty good price. Like it's £255 here, and you pay that once. So it's like not a subscription model or anything. You just pay it once and you keep it forever. You get all the updates forever. So it's actually a pretty insane price. It's basically a steal. And Resolve Studio gives you access to, I guess mostly AI tools and like workflow automations. That means you don't need it to make good work. It just helps you to get things done quicker. So Resolve 19 without the Studio is still amazing. It can still do almost everything that Studio can do. Just Studio has a few more, automation things that make things quicker and easier. All right. So, Resolve is getting used in the industry a lot, especially for color grading for a long time now. It's only gotten Fusion, the compositing, and the proper editor over the last years, but it's developing very quickly. So it's getting a lot of new features. Here we have different pages that I'm going to go more into detail later on. You can also, like this Fairlight page here, this is also for audio editing. So you can actually produce music in Resolve. Like I have a hobby musician who produces her music completely in Resolve because you have VST support, you have MIDI support, and you have a timeline, of course. So yeah, you can make music inside of Resolve if you really want to. We've got a cut page, which is a little bit like kind of like a more streamlined editing workflow, a bit like iMovie, I guess, where like things just happen more automatically. Color grading, which is the most in-depth feature in Resolve, and then Fusion, which I guess is also really, really in-depth because Fusion used to be its own program. I think before Blackmagic Design bought it, it was developed by Ion, and then Blackmagic Design bought it and put it directly into Resolve, which is was a crazy move. Fairlight, the audio production, media and delivery is just an export page, pretty solid one. Neural engine, so it's got some new, very useful actually neural features, which The ones that I use all the time is transcribing, right? So you can turn audio into subtitles automatically. You can edit with the script, right? So you have kind of like the script and you can just like edit your video by removing words or removing silences and stuff like that. And also rotoscoping. There's like a very cool AI rotoscoping tool that's actually very useful. And I think what they're showing here is people recognition. You can scan all your footage for people and then it will put those people into folders and then you have access to all the footage of one specific person if you need it. All right, let's see, is there anything else useful on the website here that I could tell you about? It's free. Yeah, Studio is very affordable. I guess that's it. Yeah, that's the most important thing from the website. To tell you a little bit about how this beginner course is helping you in general. So my concept with Canvas School is that I'm doing these beginner courses every month, right? Like a Resolve Fusion beginner course and a Blender beginner course every month. And then from then on out, I would like you to join the Discord server and like maybe try the student membership and then basically send in your experiments, your daily challenges and whatever you're working on. So I can like assist you on getting where you want to and learning the things you want to learn in the daily live streams. So it's basically a mentorship, right? So once you learn the basics through these like public live streams, then we can go into more mentorship-based teaching approach and also live streams. But yeah, that's kind of the idea behind it. But I'm feeling like I talked enough for now, so let's get into Resolve. Closing all this. All right, so when you open up Resolve, you get this window. This is basically the project browser, right? It's where all your projects are shown and saved, and you have also a few different methods of accessing projects. The local method is the standard, where basically, you just access and create projects on your local machine. What's important to know for this is that Resolve doesn't save individual project files. It saves all of your projects kind of like in a database. So you don't have like easily sendable project files like you would have with Premiere, for example. For that, if you need a project file of a specific project, you need to export it. For example, this Space Marine animation, if I want to send my edit to someone else, I need to right-click on it and click on Export Project. And then I can basically export this DaVinci Resolve project file. And if someone else gets it, they just have to drag and drop it into their startup, this project manager here. And that's how they get your project. Also something that's very cool, if you want to send a project with everything, right? Like if you did a rough cut on a project and you want someone else to take it over, you can right-click here and export project archive. And this will basically put all the media that you used for your project into one folder. And then you can just send that one folder off and you can be assured that when that person opens that folder, that project, that everything is loaded. There's no missing files, missing media, anything like that. So yeah, that's also very useful. The other methods you have are network, which is like a network server. So if you have a computer in your network where you want to host your projects, then you can use network for that. And the cool thing with that is that you can, or that everyone in the same network, like if you're working in an office, for example, in a creative agency, everyone can access the same projects and work on them, and also work on them at the same time through kind of like co-op collaboration, real-time collaboration, which is pretty cool that Resolve has that. And then the last thing is cloud, which I would honestly recommend getting because it's pretty affordable. I think it's like €2 per month for a cloud membership. And then, it's the same thing as this, but basically all your project files are getting saved in the cloud. So you don't have to worry about losing projects. It's all backed up and you can access them from everywhere. That's a very cool thing to have. I'm using it personally for the school here. Like I'm editing together with some friends on these videos and for like everything related around the school. So I'm using it for that, so everyone around the world can access it. All right, let me see my notes here. Exporting, importing. Oh yeah. All right, so let's get into creating a new project. And you can very easily just start working on something by just clicking on Untitled Project. Untitled Project is always here. It's kind of like the same as if you would click New Project, but it doesn't actually create a new project directly. So I like this because you can just double click on Untitled Project and then start messing around, start experimenting without needing to save a whole project or commit on anything. It's just like for experimentation, right? And then when you are ready, you can save this as its own project. All right, so let's get into the interface a little bit. I'll have a sip of water. Delicious. Let me see where I should start. Top tools. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a few, I guess, insight into how the UI works, because most of these pages work. They all have like something in common, right? Like all of these pages down here, they all have also these buttons up here. These buttons up here basically change what you have visible in your UI. For example, the media pool, I can click on it. Oh, you can't close it, but I guess you can switch it for the sync bin, right? So I can switch the media pool to the sync bin. I can switch it to the transitions, the titles, or the effects. I can, to the top right here, I can enable the inspector. I can open quick export. So yeah, basically these buttons up here usually change how the interface looks. And then on the bottom here, we have kind of like the different workflows that Resolve has. For example, the current one we're in is the cut page. And the cut page is used for quickly assembling rough edits. So it's a very automated way, very smart way to just quickly put one clip after the other and maybe change timing a little bit. It's not made for like working in detail, but it's very, very good for assembling a rough edit. So next, let's go to the media pool here. And the media pool is very useful for organizing your file structure, importing files from your computer. Yo, Damien is also here. House, what's up? Oh yeah, Rash is also here. Nice, nice. Thanks everyone for joining again. Fusion Shock, hell yeah. Okay, so to the top left here, we have our computer basically. So everything that is connected to our PC, our hard drives, our Google Drives. And what I want to do first, I guess, is I want to go into my I want to go into my older projects. Wait, let me just quickly, I'm going to show you something else you can do. If you don't want to navigate in this window here, and you already have your folder open, you can also just drag and drop this folder in here, and then it will open that up in here, and you'll have access to all your clips in this window. And I honestly use Resolve also for media browsing a lot, because the way you can just quickly scroll through footage is very useful. So I'm using this window here a lot when I'm looking for visual effects too. I just want to quickly show that to you because I think it's very useful. Even if you are not using Resolve for editing, it's still very useful for finding like the correct stock footage and stuff like that. So if I open up my effects folder here, assets, effects, video effects, and for example, I'm looking for some energy effects. I just drag and drop that in here. And I have all my energy effects directly in here. And you can see it's very fast. It's very easy to look through all these effects and find the correct one. So that's what I use Resolve a lot for too. All right, so let's continue by importing our footage into our media pool here, because everything that's in the media pool down here, we have access to in our edit page and Fusion and coloring and audio editing. So let's just, I guess let's import this folder, Calva School Commercial 1, into our master folder. Frame rate, we don't want to change that just now. It basically asks you when you import your first footage, it will ask you if you want to change the project frame rate to the frame rate that is the footage that you imported, right? Because at the moment, if we click on the cog on the bottom right here, we have all of our project settings, and our project timeline frame rate is 24 frames per second. And this is something you usually want to make sure you get right when you start a new project, because once you started editing and everything, it's harder to change the default frame rate. So yeah, this is something you should always think of when you start a new project. How many frames per second does this project need to have, right? Like usually it's the frames per second that you also record your footage in, but sometimes it's not that. So yeah, just make sure that you select the correct one. You can also select the correct resolution up here. If you're working on a vertical video for social media, you can also just quickly click on this button, use vertical resolution, and we'll flip it around so you have a vertical video. So yeah, I'm gonna save that. Most of the other settings in here are not that important. All the standard settings that are in here by standard are already fine. Like you don't really need to mess with those. All right, cool. So now we have all of our footage in our project here. And before we get into the edits, I want to import another project that I want to use later to show something off. So I'm going to go... this is also maybe something interesting for you. You can have favorites, right? Favorite folders. And I usually use these favorite folders to mark projects I'm working on currently, right? So for the commercial, for example, I can just drop this into favorites. Oops, it didn't do that. Here we go. And now it's in my favorites. And this is also a workflow tip. If you have new files in your project, right? For example, I filmed all this footage on one day, but then I have another day of filming and I add those. Then to get that new footage in, the easiest way is to just drag and drop the whole project folder into the master again, and then Resolve will look, okay, what's the new footage, what's the new data, and will only import that. So this basically just copies the folder structure that you have on your PC into Resolve. And I think that's very useful, instead of having to build the same folder structure or a unique folder structure into Resolve again. Yeah, it just makes it a bit easier. Right, yes, another project I wanted to import, current projects here, Space Marine Animation. I'm also import that into master to make sure that it's like, it's visible that it's two different projects here. All right, so let's get into the cut. 1 second, let me check. Let me actually check my notes here. Pages, cool. Yes, okay, we talked about all this. So let's switch to the cut page now and open up the side panel here just to make sure we're in the right folder. Yes, we're in the right folder. Footage. Okay, so now I have all my footage here. And there's some cool ways you can scroll through your footage to like find the correct one you're looking, right? So in the cut page, we have this little button here, which is very cool. This button basically shows you all the footage that you have in your selected folder as one strip. So you can very easily just scroll through all your footage in one long timeline basically, and then put in points and out points and import what you need. So for example, if I want to have this piece here, I can play it back. But actually, let me have audio. There we go. Oh, maybe I should show you this too, because right now, like I noticed on this project, we have only the camera audio right now, right? Like we hear the audio very, very slightly, very badly. But Resolve actually has a way to auto-sync all your audio with video. Wait, Cameron asks, what button did you press for that? Sorry. It's on the top here. So basically switching from the timeline view, right? Like this one shows you what you have in your timeline. And this one, source tape, basically shows you all the footage in the current folder as its own timeline. So you can just quickly look through it. And I guess then as the last option, you have source clip, which will show you only one clip, right? So if we click on one, it will show you that one clip as a full thing. So yeah, these three methods are very useful. This is actually multi-source. Okay, this is when you work with multiple cameras, not so important for us. Nice. Alright, I wanted to quickly show you how to sync audio with video. So I'm going to go back to the media pool right now. And you can see yeah, I mean, you can hear, hopefully, if it's loud enough, that yeah, it's just the camera audio right now, but we actually did record the
school. The what? The blurb for digital creatives.
we actually recorded the audio separate. So what you can do is just select these two folders, and then I will just like select everything, right click, and then auto sync audio. I'm gonna use you've got the way, like you've got this waveform or timecode mode. Timecode only works when you synced the timecodes on both of your devices, on the audio device and on the camera. And most consumer equipment doesn't support this. So usually you want to select waveform, so it compares the camera audio to the recorded audio. And then, yeah, just click sync. And it's looking through all the footage, it's looking through all the audio. And it's basically... Okay, it didn't find some matches. I just found... Okay, is that fine? Did it still sync some? I'm not sure if it did it, actually. Let's just select automatic here, try that. Okay, it did find a few, not all of them, but that's usually normal when you don't have...
This is just illusion.
Ah, here we go. Okay, so yeah.
School. The school for digital creatives.
Yeah, so this worked, for the most clips at least.
In all of our daily live stream.
Yeah, so this is also... I think this feature is part of the studio. It could be part of the free one too, I'm not super sure right now. Vistros asks, will there be an intermediate series 2 after the beginner's course? Yeah, as I mentioned before, there's gonna be... like basically after the beginner course, everything after that is mentorship based. So if you want to learn something, or if you're working on something and you have like a roadblock, then you can send it in to the Discord server as a student member, and then we work it out together. Like I will teach you specifically in the live streams how to solve your problems and how to do the things you want to learn. But there are also workshops planned. So those workshops are also again about like bigger, more advanced topics. For example, I am planning a advanced Blender Resolve workflow workshop, right? Where we're basically going through all the tips and workflows that I've figured out over the years, how to get Blender renders into Resolve and composite them in the best ways, in the most effective, fastest ways. So yeah, that's the whole idea, the whole concept. All right. Okay, so yeah, syncing worked. Audio syncing, and now let's go back into our cut page. So now we can either just kind of like drop in the clips that we want, right? Like for example, I want this whole clip to be in here. So I can just drag and drop it in this, and Resolve will create a new timeline. You can see it here, it recreated a new timeline in the master folder. And let's just call this, beginner course V1. Always put version numbers on everything, because you never know when you want to back something up or you want to try something out. And then you can just, do a V2, V3. Yeah, always put version numbers on everything. I've learned that the hard way. Alright, let's go back into our footage here. Okay, so we've got our clip now, and the cut page has these two views. The top one is basically the whole timeline, right? Like everything that you have in your timeline. And the bottom one is, your clips in a, more closer look, so you can edit more closely, more detailed. So that means you can trim clips on the top here. If you just go to the end of a clip or the beginning of a clip and you drag, then you can start like selecting the end point, right? Like I can, for example, want to start when I'm starting to come into the frame, or shot before I come into the frame, and I want to end. Let's see.
I mean, this is an illusion, digital magic.
Okay, and I want to end it when I leave the frame again. This is, of course, this is not a good take. Like this, this take that I just selected isn't a good one, but just for an example. All right. So yeah, now I have basically my my take here, and to add a new one, I can also, let me switch to this mode here. I can select a clip that I want to use, and then in here already select the in and out point. That's sometimes easier than doing it directly in the timeline, to just like do it before you even drop it into the timeline. So I'm gonna look when I'm starting to talk, right here. I'm gonna press I to mark the in point. And then when I'm finished talking, press O to mark the out point. And then I can just drag and drop that either like in front of my current clip, after my current clip, or even on top of my current clip. In this case, I'm just going to put it in front of my current clip. So I'm just going to put it in here. And yeah, you can see I've got this clip here now, and then the other clip. Yeah, and this is basically how we would assemble your rough edit. It's a pretty fast, easy way to get a rough cut going. There's honestly not much more that I would use the cut page for, because it is pretty limited. So yeah, I would just use it to like quickly assemble your edit, get the clips one after the other that you want to use, and then I would switch to the edit page, which we will do now. All right, so the edit page is looks a little bit different. Like we don't have the big media pool immediately, but we can actually open it up if we click on it up here, right? So this is, again, you can change what you have in your user interface with these buttons on top. For example, right now I don't need the inspector or the metadata, so Resolve will give me automatically more space for the viewer. And also you have these kind of like arrow buttons, and these mean just to expand this window that you have on the top, right? So I can have a bigger media pool, or I can switch to the effects and I can have bigger effects pool. The same works also here with the inspector. I can have a small inspector or a big inspector. And some of these panels actually also share the space. So if I have a small panel here, then it will get replaced by whatever I'm activating. Oh, actually the mixer just pops down there. So I can have either inspector or metadata, but if I have a big window here, I can have both at the same time. So I have the metadata down here and the inspector up here. But we don't need either right now. So yeah, let's keep going with this edit here. There's a few like very interesting ways you can edit footage, which are very smart and intuitive in my opinion. So for example, I see I have this gap in the beginning, right, that I don't really need. And whenever you have a gap anywhere, for example, also if I have a gap between these two clips, I can just mark the spot between it and remove it with backspace. So yeah, basically removing empty parts is the same as removing a clip. Also something that's very useful is the blade tool right here. And this blade tool basically cuts a clip and at the selected position, right? So for example, if I want this clip to end sooner, I could like make a blade cut here and then switch back to the selector. And then with you have two options. If you press backspace, it will remove that clip and it will leave an empty space. But you can also click delete, and it will delete that clip and also close the gap between those clips. So yeah, that's very useful. I want to show you another way, an even more effective way to do this, which is this tool here, trim edit mode. And trim edit mode basically gives you a lot of smart controls over your clip. Like you can see whenever or like wherever I have my cursor over these clips, it has a different icon. And these icons are actually very important. They make a big difference. But before we keep going, let me just open this up. Here you can change the size of your video clip, so you can actually see some thumbnails like that. It's helpful to just kind of like from the distance see what clips you have in what order, right? So yeah, this edit or this mode here actually changes its icon wherever you are on the clip. It has a different one up here, it has a different one down here, it has a different one if I am to the right, it has a different one if I'm in between two clips. And yeah, this mode actually helps you to edit very fast. For example, I just showed you how to make a cut here and then delete this part, right? But I can also just use this tool and just grab the end of this clip and just, yeah, move it to the place where I want the clip to end. And you see that Resolve automatically pushes all the clips that come afterwards towards that. So this makes it very easy to, yeah, to tighten your edit, to make it exactly how you need it without needing to play back that much, because you have a view or like a preview on how it looks like on the viewer here on the top. So yeah, that's how you change the start and end point. The other things you can do with this, if you hover here and you drag here, you can actually change the content of that clip without changing the timing. Just the, yeah, you move the content to the front or the back. If you click and drag down here, you can change the timing of that clip and the clips around it. For example, if you put another one, oh, this is a very short one. If you put another one back here, and we trim the beginning, and remove this, then it actually, yeah, it's kind of just like, I don't know how to call this, but I think you see what I mean, right? You see what's happening. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And also you can change the cut moment between two clips if you hover here. So yeah, I would personally always use the trim edit mode because yeah, it saves a lot of time because it does a lot of things automatically. Let me look at my notes here. Trim edit, we got that. Should I show you anything else that's important? Oh yeah, something that I also like to do, which works pretty fast. I like to just like kind of like hover over these clips here to find the right moment. For example, here I want to have the moment where I grab the camera. So I just like roughly go to the position before I grab the camera, press I, and then go to after I grab the camera, press O. And then I have those in and out points already in there, and I can just drag and drop it in here. Yeah, so this is a very, very quick way without having to click much. It's just hovering and pressing the keyboard to yeah, get your in and out points, and then just dragging it directly into the edit. Yeah, let's tighten this up a little bit. So I wanna like get it started right before I grab the camera. So right here. Here, not much is really happening, but I'll just use whatever I'm saying anyways. Okay. Something else that's really important is the scaling, right? Like these clips you can scale in and out to like make it easier to edit more finer or more, I guess, rougher. And you can zoom in and out by either holding down Alt and mouse wheel, so you can zoom in and out. And you can see it's also changing this one. This is basically the same thing. You can zoom in and out with this. But I personally, most of the time, use these two buttons, because this one to the left basically scales your whole timeline into the view. So however big your timeline is, for example, if I Alt-click on this clip to duplicate it, and I drag it to the right and drop it here, then the whole timeline will scale so I can see everything that's in my timeline, as long as I'm in this mode. And the other mode here, this one zooms you all the way in. So if you're in this mode, you basically see every single frame, and you can very easily, yeah, do very fine adjustments to your clip if you need to work very carefully. So I'm basically always switching between these two modes. Like I'm switching to the full timeline, so I can go to somewhere else where I want to work. So I go there, and then I switch to this to yeah, work on the detail of that edit. Yeah, and this one to the right is basically the custom. Like this one automatically activates if you change the zoom. So yeah, this is your custom zoom basically. All right, any questions so far about this, everything that I told so far? Because these are basically, yeah, I basically covered all the basic editing features now. There's, of course, a lot more things that I could tell you about this window here, about the edit page. But I could also go now into Fusion, if you're more interested in that. Maybe one more thing that I want to show you about the edit page is the inspector. Because the inspector lets you move your footage and it lets you like change a few cool things about your footage, right? The most obvious is transformation, right? So you can like zoom in and out, you can change the position, you can change the rotation, you can even like stretch it for some reason. I've never seen people use this. I don't know who uses this and what for. Because I don't know why. But you can actually also have this whole transform thing as a user interface. So on the top bottom left here, if we click this little icon, we have all the transform tools as a user interface. So we can just click and drag to move it, we can scale it, we can rotate it. We can't pitch and draw it, which is very sad, because we definitely need those features. So yeah, we can squeeze it, we can stretch it, all those cool things. And then to reset it, I can just click on this little button here again. You can actually also switch the user interface that you want in your viewer, right? Like if I click on this little drop down, we can have different types of interfaces that we can do different things with. Crop, for example, lets us crop the image, which is inside of this here. So I can also reset that. We got dynamic zoom. Oh, dynamic zoom is actually really useful. I like to use dynamic zoom a lot. So for example, let's take a static shot, like, I guess this is a static shot. Alright, so let's activate dynamic zoom. Oops, dynamic zoom. And we'll give you these this red and this green window. And that basically means the zoom will start, I think it starts at the green window and will end at the red window. So for example, I can place this red window on my face and this green window like a bit bigger. And if I play back now, it will start. Oh yeah, actually wait, my face is over here. So let's put it here. And so now, over the duration of this whole clip, Resolve will zoom from the green part to the red part. So you can see that if I play it back. And yeah, this is a very, very useful tool to just like give your video a little bit of energy, right? Like you usually you can do this very subtle. Like you can just like have Resolve zoom in very slightly, and it will always help you to make your video feel a bit more engaging. Like this, yeah. Alright, Cameron has a question here. Is there a way to equalize the audio for all clips? I haven't done that before. I mean, there is a new automatic way to do that, but it's also part of the studio license. So if you click on the audio channel here, it will bring you up this these settings in the inspector, and then you can use Dialog Leveler. And Dialog Leveler basically tries to level all of your audio to a selected decibels, right? So this feature kind of does it. I'm not super sure how well it does it, but I think it's what you're asking for.
The most current workflows. This is Calva School.
It's not really the same volume, but you can very easily also do it manually, because you can look at these waveforms. You can basically just grab this little line here and pull it up until like to a way where the waveforms look similarly big, and then they should also sound similarly loud. You can also make the audio bigger so it's easier to see. So yeah, doing it like this is definitely also very doable. It's not too much work, I think. Do I need to select all clips? No, if you add this effect on this audio channel, right, like it will basically affect all the audio that is inside of this channel, inside of this one track. So you need to be aware of that. Like whatever you put in this, like if you put music in here, it will also be leveled as dialogue, which doesn't make much sense. So you should put music in a different channel in that case. Okay, so so I'm going to continue now into Fusion, and if you guys have more questions about the editor or like any feature about editing, we can talk about that in the second hour. So yeah, I'm going to go into Fusion now because it's the biggest topic that I want to get into for all the VFX and 3D artists I have at the school. Cameron is dropping off. All right, thanks for watching, man. I'll see you. Okay, cool. I learned a lot. The perfect basics. Nice. I'm happy. Very happy. Okay, cool. Fusion page. Yes, let's get into Fusion. And for that, I'm actually going to create a new timeline with my cool 3D render here, which I created a few weeks ago. It's pretty cool, right? I'm just going to make it loop. So yeah, so this is a export from Blender. I'm going to show you kind of like the basics of that workflow right now, but as I mentioned, I'm planning like a more advanced, like really in-depth tutorial about the whole workflow from Blender to Resolve. So today I'm going to show you the basics, just how to use it in general. Such a cool guy. It's crazy. Oh, thanks, man. You're very cool and sexy. All right. So what you might notice, I have a JPEG sequence and I have an EXR sequence, and that's just because JPEG is like you can play that back in real time, and EXR is very heavy, so I can't really play that back in real time. So what I usually do is I create a timeline from the JPEG, right? So I'm clicking right-click on the JPEG, click on Create New Timelines using Selected Clip, and I'm going to call this Space Marine Punch. Create. I've got the timeline. It's already got a check mark on here, so you know it's selected. So if I switch into the edit mode, we have it in our edit. So yeah, let me actually disable this again. I don't need that. Okay, so yeah, we can play it back in real time. And let's go into Fusion for this clip and play around with it. Oh yeah, in general, how you go into a Fusion, or like how you turn a clip into a Fusion composition, is the easiest way is to just click on Fusion, and what happens then is Fusion basically picks the highest layer at your current playtime, right? So if I had, I don't know, like if I had the same clip on top, right? Like if I switched into Fusion now, it would select this clip. And if I was here and clicked into Fusion now, it would select this clip. That's how it works. If you have clips underneath each other, for example, like I am right, like time-wise here, but I will actually want to work on this clip, you can right-click on that and choose Open Fusion Page. Then it will open that selected clip in Fusion. Okay, let me remove the second one here. Okay, let's just go into Fusion. And my interface doesn't make much sense for my monitor that I have right now, because it's taking up a lot of space. You can select how your interface is organized by going here into Workspace, Layout Presets, Fusion Presets, and then you have these 5 presets basically. I'm just going to show you all of them because it doesn't really make a difference for how Fusion works. It's just how the windows are aligned. So yeah, just play around with them and see which works best for your monitor. I'm going to go with default for now, which will create 2 viewers on the top here and our node graph on the bottom and our settings on the right. All right, so what should I show first? Let me look here, Fusion interface. Yeah, okay, let me just explain the interface a little bit more to you. As I said, you have 2 viewers, and these 2 viewers are useful because you can look at different parts of your composition at the same time. So I usually always have the media out on my right viewer, right? Because this will always show you the final image, basically what's getting put out back into the timeline. And then you can just drag and drop whatever you want to see on the left side. So for example, if I want to see only the footage in its raw form before I do anything to it, I can just drag and drop that into here and I will see it here. Obviously right now it looks the same because we didn't do anything. Yes, so I will show you how to change it in a moment. To the right we have the settings. So whenever you select a node, it will show you those nodes settings to the right here. And yeah, it's always very different depending on what kind of node you have selected. Again, like in the rest of Fusion, you can make these panels bigger and smaller. You can exchange them for other types of panels. You can enable a keyframe editor. You can enable a spline editor. You can have your media pool also in here. You can have effects list, all the effects that are available. And also here can show all the clips in your edit. So this is a pretty useful thing, this clips thing, because if we, for example, go back into our other timeline, the beginner course, and I go into Fusion, and I enable the clips view, then I can see all of my clips in the timeline already down here, so I don't need to go back and forth between the timeline and Fusion. I can just quickly click between the different clips down here. So that's also very useful. Let's switch back to other timeline here, Space Marine. Okay. So I'm gonna show you, or maybe I should explain to you how Fusion works in general, because to some of you this might look confusing, because we have this grid with two nodes, right? The media in and media out. And it's very different to how, let me actually save this before anything crashes. Usually Resolve doesn't crash often, but I just want to make sure I don't have to set this up again. Tutorial V1, of course. Let's close this clips. Okay, so how Fusion works is different to After Effects, for example. You can do almost the same things, but After Effects works in a layer-based system, similar to how the editor is, for example, right? Like you have clips and you put them on top of each other, you change the timing, and you can put effects on each clip. And actually, if you want to work like that, you can use the editor timeline almost like After Effects. There's like a few more limitations, but you can do a lot of things if you want to work in a layer-based system like this. For example, After Effects crashes every 3 minutes. That's the difference. That's a pretty cool difference, man. Thanks. Fusion works in a node-based system. That means there's no left, right, up, down. You can put nodes wherever you want to, and they will, just flow in the direction of these pipes, in the direction of these arrows of the pipes. So I can work from up, down, right? I can put nodes in between these two, like in this direction. I can work from left to right. Like organization-wise, how I usually do it is I work kind of like use the main pipeline from left to right like this, right? So I kind of like have my main inputs to the left and my output to the right. And then I basically kind of like build machines in between. Like I start putting like one node here, and if I want to change things on that one node, or I want to make it more complex, I add nodes to the top or to the bottom, feeding into that node. So it feels like kind of like a factory, right? Where like your raw material gets fed through different machines that can be very complex, very tall, or very easy, very small. So that's kind of like how I handle it. Pause says I was literally working only on line stroke animation, nothing crazy, and it kept crashing. I have no idea why. Yeah, man, I never liked After Effects. I never used it much. It just felt slow and clunky to me. I mean, you can still do crazy stuff with it, but yeah, I didn't see the point in using it. All right, so I think I kind of like told you the basics on how it works, but maybe a little bit more. Like the cool thing about nodes is that you can reuse data in any way. So you can feed things in, like you can use the information from one node in another node. You can connect things very complexly. Like there's no linear way of using data. You can reuse everything everywhere. So that's a big plus. And to understand why that is a cool thing, you just need to try it and need to use it and see how it makes things more, I guess, complex, and how it makes your effects more detailed because of that freedom. All right, it's time to get into the notes, into showing you what you can do and how you do it. So let's see what we should start with. Text node. Yeah, very easy. Let's start with adding a text. So in the middle here, we have this little toolbar with a few of the basic nodes we have access to, right? So for example, this one is the text node. So I'm just going to click on it, and it adds this little node here that's called text1. And again, I can just drag and drop this into my viewer, and I will see what this does. At the moment, it doesn't show anything because there's no text. So let's just type hello students. And yeah, it will show you basically what that text does. And we have all kinds of settings here. We have size, we have tracking, all kinds of things. Sometimes we also have a user interface with the text, for example. We have this little gizmo, so we can change the position and the rotation. I'm going to undo that. And now the question is, how do I get this on top of my footage, right? Because it's like, how do I connect it? How do I get it on top? Because there's no bottom and top in Fusion. The easiest way is actually to just drag out the kind of like the output, right? Like these gray boxes are always the output of every node, and drag that into the output of the other node. Basically, the two nodes you want to overlay with each other. You do that, and then Resolve creates this new node called merge. You can place this wherever you want to, and you can see we have the text on top of our video. And how the merge node works is basically like a layer. You have a foreground and you have a background, and the foreground will be applied on top of the background. And the foreground is the green pipe, and the background is the yellow pipe. So if I change this around, for example, we don't see the text because the text is behind the video. So I want to switch that around again. And the easy way to switch that around is actually the keyboard shortcut Control-T. This quickly switches foreground and background. Okay, so we have our text in front of this. Text merge, we got that. Okay, transform. I just showed you that you can move this text already, right? Like here, like this. The ability to move this text is already built into the text node itself. But there are a lot of effects that don't have that feature built in. And in general, for me, I like to also do like transformation separately instead of the text itself, to just kind of like have in my node, like in my node overview, visible that I am actually moving that text, to just like visually directly understand, okay, that text is getting moved. So I'm selecting this text here, and then I'm going to click on this one. This is the transform node. And if I have a node selected and I click on another one, then that node will be added in between or like after the selected one, right? So we have this transform now here, and the transform gives us the same capability. It gives us this, this gizmo that we can use to move the text, and we can rescale it, we can rotate it, whatever we want. And the interesting thing now that you might notice is that it doesn't actually show us that in the left viewer. Now that's important to understand because we have only the text itself visible in the left viewer. You can see that with these little dots, right? We have this left dot on this text, and we have this right dot on the media out. That means the media out is being displayed in the right viewer, and the text one is being viewed in the left viewer. And because we're making the transform afterwards, we need to show the transform node actually in the left one, and then it will show us the result. So yeah. This might be a bit confusing in the beginning, but it actually makes a lot of sense because this gives you the possibility to kind of like understand what's happening in more detail, right? Like if your render on the right, the final image looks a bit strange, then you can just like drag and drop, oops, sorry. You can just drag and, again. You can just drag and drop nodes into the left viewer and see where that mistake might come from. Oh, by the way, you can also just press 1 or 2 on your keyboard to select if the selected node should be visible on the left one or on the right viewer, right? Like 1, 2, 2, 1. Yeah, so that is that, the transform. Let's talk about backgrounds. Background node is, I think, pretty important because there's always a point where you just need a color or a gradient, right? Like very basic things. So the background node you get from here, right? Background, and we just get a color. If I show this is just black, and we can click on this and select any color, and it will show you that color. So yeah, nothing super fancy, but it's important to know that you get like just colors in this way. You can also switch the type to a gradient, like horizontal, for example, vertical, 4 corners, or a gradient, which is, I mean, yeah, gradient is also a horizontal thing, but gradient basically gives you much more control over everything. Like you can select the start point, the end point. You can then switch also what type of gradient it is, right? It can be reflective, it can be square, it can be radial, so like a circle. So yeah, this is how you create all kinds of gradients. I'm actually going to use this as an example for masking, because this is also something very, very important. For example, I want to have my footage masked out in the middle. I want it to like be like a circle, right? So I could use this background for that, but maybe that's a bit too far-fetched right now. Before I get into that, I'm going to show you masks in general before we use the background as a mask. So, as I said, I want to mask out this footage. I want it to be like a circle. The easiest ways for that is to just like select your footage, the one or like the clip that you want to have a cutout from, and then you select the kind of mask that you want in here. So we have like a rectangle mask, we have ellipse, we have polygon. Polygon basically lets you draw your own mask. So yeah, let's just select the ellipse, and you can see it added this ellipse mask, and the ellipse mask feeds into this blue input. And the blue inputs, the blue lines are always mask data to kind of like cut things out. So yeah, now we can manipulate this. OMG, object masking incoming. Object mask. Yeah, I can show you that. I can show that to you guys later. Okay. So now we have it as a nice little, yeah, round cutout. And actually, before we continue, since we have a transparency now, let's put a background behind it. So I'm going to select media in. I'm going to, oh yeah, this is also pretty cool. Instead of using this toolbar to have access to a limited amount of effects, you can either open the effects panel here, right, and look for the effects you need, or what I always do, I just press Control Space and it gives you this little pop-up, and then you can type in whatever you want. So background, enter, and it added this background. But the problem is as a foreground element. So I want it as a background, so I'm gonna Control T, and now we have black where it was transparent before. And let me just make this yellow, I guess. Oh, this is a bit too bright. Let's make it, I don't know, pink. Why not? We could also use our gradient that we created. Like if we just drag the output point into the background input here, then we have our gradient as a background, which is, yeah, which was perfectly hidden a moment ago. So if we do this, we have a nice gradient. Alright, but I'm actually going to use the pink one. Or maybe, yeah, to like show you another way to use merges. Because in After Effects you use blend modes a lot, right? Like you use screen to put lens flares on top of something, or you use add for glows, I guess. So we can do the same with this. Like if I want this black and white gradient on top of my pink, I can again just drag this in here and it will combine those two things. And then I can change the apply mode to multiply, to basically use this black of the gradient to put it on top of the pink background. So this is just a little example of what else you can do with a merge node. The merge node is very, very versatile. Okay, so I've got that here. I've got that there. Let me see. Background node, mask node. Yes. Okay, so I showed you how to mask stuff. That's all good. Animation. Oh yeah. Something important is how to animate stuff, right? And that you can do pretty easily, I would say. So for example, I want to animate the text, right? I want it to just move around. So I could just like go to the start of my time and oh yeah, also you can have only one viewer, right? Like if I want to have this as big as I want as possible, I can just click on this little icon here and will expand this viewer to the whole screen. Okay, so I want to animate this transform. And you can see on every setting here, we have these little squares on the right. And if I click those, it will create a new keyframe. We can't see the keyframe right now, but if we go to a different moment in time and we move this to the right, then you can see it created this little white line here. And that means there is a keyframe for the selected node. If I select a different node, it doesn't show you that keyframe. So it's depending on what node you have selected. Yeah, then you already have an animation, this thing moving over. This is, I guess, the basics of animation, like it's very, very basic. But also something you could do is make it more smooth, right? Because right now it's linear, which is very, very boring. And if I want it to be smooth, I need to open up the keyframe editor. And this gives you this little interface, which shows you all the keyframes for your selected nodes. I can expand this, then I see the keyframes. And you can move the timing of the keyframes here in this editor, and you can also make it smooth. So if I select both of these keyframes, I right-click on them, and then I can choose very easily smooth here, and then you will see this line has been smoothed out, and now it will have a smooth start and end. It like accelerates and it decelerates and it feels much nicer. If I don't select anything, it feels much nicer. Also, something that you usually want if you animate things is motion blur, because it just makes it feel better, right? So motion blur you can activate on any node that has transform abilities in the settings. So if I switch over to the settings in the transform node, I've got motion blur right here. Yeah, now if I play it back, it's got nice motion blur. You might see that the motion blur isn't very high quality, and for that you can just simply increase the quality setting here, and you will get a higher quality motion blur. The higher your quality setting here is, the longer it also takes to render, but it also looks much nicer. So yeah, this looks pretty smooth now. This looks pretty nice. Something else I wanted to show you, which is maybe the best kind of like start to show you how node compositing is very smart and very interconnected, is that I want to use, for example, I want to use the same mask that I'm using for cutting out the footage for the text, but inverted. So I basically wanted to like be behind this, right? So I could simply drag the same mask output into the mask input of the text. And then, actually, I noticed that this will not work because, wait, I'm a little confused. Oh, no, okay, it makes sense. Okay, how do I explain this? So if I scale this down a little bit, you will see that our window to the footage gets smaller, but also the text gets smaller, but in a different position, right? Like it's getting smaller here. And that's because we apply the mask to the text before it gets transformed, right? Like it's getting masked out before it's getting moved. So if we want it to really be behind the footage here, let me reset that, we need to apply the mask afterwards. So that means we can apply it to the merge, like this. So the merge having that mask input now knows that it should mask out your the foreground element where the mask is. I'm not sure if this makes sense to you, but I hope it just makes sense from seeing what's happening. And I want to invert the mask because I want it to be everywhere, but the circle in the middle, right? And you can do that in the settings. Here with this button, apply mask inverted, and then it looks like the text is behind the circle. Yeah, this is just one way. Another way, which I recommend more because this feels a little messy, is I'm going to disconnect this again. I use another merge, like I'm putting a merge after this transform, and I'm actually using this mask as a foreground input for the merge, and then in the merge for operation you can use mask, and this will mask it out. It basically does the same thing but in a different node. And if I want it to be inverted, I can use stencil. So yeah, we did the same thing but in a different way, which is always useful to know how to do things in different ways, because it might be more useful than the other way. Okay, so this was just an example how to reuse data, right? So the cool thing is now that since both connect to this mask, if I change this mask, it will just work. It will just adapt both of the, like in both scenarios. Compared to AE render times here are amazing. Yeah, Fusion is pretty fast in rendering. Like, since After Effects got multi-core support, it's also faster, but I think Fusion is still a bit faster. Okay, let me see my notes here. Animation I showed you. Okay, so that's basically the basics for Fusion nodes. Like, of course, there's much more to talk about, but before I tell you more about it, like in our interactive time, I want to show you how to use EXR's renders just quickly, because yeah, I'm doing this like with a focus group of VFX and 3D artists, and for them it's pretty important how to use EXR in Resolve, because right now we are using just the JPEG sequence, which is very useful because in the editor we will be able to always play it back almost in real time, right? Especially if we disable effects up here, it will always be real time. JPEG sequences will always play back in real time, so we can edit very quickly and we can enable effects again. And then what I like to do to use the EXR, I basically select the EXR here, right? And I drag it onto my media in, which is currently the JPEG sequence. And it asks me if I want to replace it, and I say okay. And immediately I get red notes because something isn't working, there's an error somewhere. And if I show my media in also here, it doesn't show anything new. And that's because you need to select a layer when you use multi-layer EXR, because they have all kinds of data they could show. So for now, for example, combined shows you the final, the final render. I'm actually gonna delete this mask here because I want to see the full image here. Oh, but instead of deleting, you can actually disable nodes with Control P. So I'm just pressing Control P on this mask, and it's not active anymore. Okay, so one thing that you might notice is that the EXR looks very different to the JPEG. It looks, yeah, almost wrong. And that's because EXR comes in a linear color space. And linear color space is basically like uncompressed, like there's no limits to data. Like you can have all the detail on the sun and at the same time as all the detail in a cave. So that's why linear is useful, but we need to bring it into a color space that is more useful for looking at it. And what you need for that is the OCIO color space. OCIO color space, you add that to your not to the JPEG. You need to add that after your EXR layer. Oh yeah, I didn't show you that to you. But if you hold Shift while dragging a node, you can disconnect it from the current connected one. And if you drop it in between a connection, it will plug it in there. So now I have my OCIO in here. And now what you need to do in the settings, you need to click on Browse and navigate to your installation folder of Blender. So project files, Blender Foundation, and then go to your latest version, 4.3, data files, color management, and then we have this config.ocio. We want to use that. And then here in source space, we select linear rec 709. And output space, down here we can select AGX base sRGB. And then we get a more usable image. This basically looks really good. You can also still experiment with this with output space. You can like see which of these output spaces looks better to you. They are basically, like, to me, I just use these to kind of like get a first kind of like look right. Like if I see any of these looking better to me, I'll just use that. So yeah, that's what you can do. You just select the color space that looks best to you. Like usually you should use AGX base, but yeah, it doesn't really matter too much as long as you use the same color space throughout your project. so the grinders don't look different. Alright, so yeah, now we have our EXR in here, and we can work in a in a non-compressed workflow. Like whatever we do now, we will never lose any data. There will never be any like color banding or crunching. And since it's a multi-layer EXR, if I copy paste these two nodes, non-destructive. That's right, non-destructive. There's no destruction happening at all. On the left viewer, I can select also the other passes, for example, the emit pass, and I will have all of my emission, right? Like only whatever is emissive I will have here. And that's useful for example, adding a extra glow, right? Like I can feed this here back into the main pipeline. Use apply mode screen, and then I can add a glow after this. And yeah, this basically makes it so that only the emissive materials on my render are glowing, which is sometimes pretty useful because sometimes you don't want everything to glow, but only the things that are actually bright, the things that are actually emitting light. Something else we could do if I disable this, something that I have in my startup project, which is pretty useful. Enable this here. Actually, why did I disable it? I can keep it. I have object ID. Let's see, where is it? Object ID combined. Yes, so object ID lets you basically edit any object separately, right? For example, I want to edit our main character here, like I want him to be more contrasty. I could just add, oh wait, so I can just add a keyer, like it's like a chroma key. Which key was the best? I forgot. Key, difference key, chroma key. Let's just try the chroma key. Oh no, the chroma key doesn't. Oh, does it? No, the chroma key isn't the right one. Key, delta keyer. Can then select basically my robot here. Okay, and we almost have a mask. We want to like lower the balance here, and maybe some other things because right now it's selected also other parts. Let me see if we can fix that. I think this is the wrong keyer because there was one keyer that actually did it much cleaner. We used 3D keyer. Oh wait, let's try 3D keyer. Let's see what that does. Oh, this is actually pretty accurate. Okay. Yeah, 3D keyer seems pretty good. Key adjustment, chroma tolerance. I want no tolerance. Softness, no softness. Alright, here we go, yeah. Oh, that's what's the thing. So no softness. I want only that color that I selected. And then I also want to show only mask. Oh yeah, here we go. Alpha highlight, black and white. So this basically gives us a black and white mask. And the cool thing now is that I can, for example, add a curve node here. And I can change the contrast and everything on the character. Like if I do it now, it will apply to everything, right? The whole image. But if I feed this into the mask input on the color curves, and in the settings I select luminance as a channel, and I guess also apply mask inverted. So now if I change these things, it will only apply to the character. So this really gives you a lot of control over fine-tuning your image by being able to really control every single object in your scene afterwards, like make them really pop and stand out or whatever you want to add. Yeah, just one more little workflow tip for your 3D artists out there. Okay, Right. The last thing that is here to tell you guys about is the color page and the deliver page. Audio I'm not going to get much into because it's completely own workflow. So let's quickly go to color. And the color page works similar to Resolve, to Fusion, where you have nodes, right? Like I have this node here, and basically whatever I do on the bottom here with all these tabs, do different color correction operations. It will be applied to that one node. And you can also add new nodes with Alt S. It will create a new node. And then, for example, I want more contrast here, so I can just do that. And we'll do it on the whole image. Yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about color grading. I'm planning a workshop on color grading CG footage for the future. So I don't get too much into it right now because we already have it 70/20 and I still want to give you guys time to ask your questions. So I'm going to show you just the deliver page next, and after that we're going to go interactive. All right, so deliver page is basically the export settings for Resolve. What you usually want to do is you can select one of these presets on the top here. Usually H.264 is the standard and this like good final deliver codec for anything. And then here with browse, you select your export folder. Let's just try it here, I guess. Save. Oh, and also version 1, of course. So you have your formats here, you have your codecs here. Usually also in quality, I use best, right? Just have the best quality. There's honestly not much that I change here in these settings. I just use the standard settings. Audio you can enable or disable depending if you have audio. File, you could use timeline name to automatically just use the timeline name instead of having to type it in yourself. Yeah, and then you just press add to render queue and then render all, and it will render that shot for you. Okay, guys, so that is basically the basics of Resolve, all the basics that you need to know to get started. I see my camera is pretty much lagging while I'm exporting here. Maybe if I minimize it? No, it's not different. Okay, so you can write down your questions now, and I can go into more depth into anything that you want to know. I've seen Damien asked about object masks, and I think I know what he's talking about. It's like there's a very cool automatic masking feature in Resolve called Magic Mask. It's yeah, you just basically draw a line on what you want to mask out, and AI does the job of rotoscoping that object. So I'm going to show that to you after this export is done. But yeah, everybody, please write your questions in the chat about what you want to learn more about, and I will get into that for the next half hour. All right, cool. You can also open up the export folder by just right-clicking on that task and click on Open Export. Or what did it say? Open File Location. There we go. Okay, where is it? Here it is. So there we go. Hello, students. And he punches the cube with some extra glow. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me show you what Damien was talking about, the magic mask, in the other timeline here in the beginner course. There we go. So, for example, if I want to cut me out, right? Like if I want a mask of me to put something behind me, you can either do that in the color page or in Fusion. I'm going to show you how to do it in Fusion because you have more options in Fusion with that. So I'm going to go into Fusion. And I will, yes, I will select my media in and add the magic mask node. And the magic mask node basically gives you this pen directly. And what you want to do is then just draw a line over the footage or the object that you want to cut out. So I'm just going to draw all the way here to my pants. And then you will see it load. And it will give you a result very fast, very quickly. It looks like it has everything of me, like on my arms, my legs. So yeah, So usually if it doesn't have anything that you want, you would like draw another line where you want more stuff, right? Like maybe I'll draw another line on my leg here just to be sure. And I also see it's got a little bit of a background, which shouldn't be a problem, but just to make sure I'm going to hold down Alt, and then I'm drawing a negative line. That means it should not use that part. Okay. And then when you have the rough outline working, you can switch to the better mode, and the better mode will, give you a much better looking mask. Like if you look at this now, right, like it's much softer, it's much more detailed. Yeah, especially in the hair, it looks very, very good. Like the fast one is very sharp, but the better one is pretty good. Yeah, and then all you need to do is actually just click on this button to track the mask forward and backward, and it will track the whole footage for you. Now this footage is a bit long. I'm thinking, let me actually cancel that with escape and make it a bit shorter so we don't have to wait so long here. So I'm just using a little small part footage like this. Oops, oh actually now my mask is outside of the use area. Okay, let's do that. Okay, and then track it again. Okay. And keep in mind, I'm also working with like very high resolution footage. I'm working with 6K footage here. And it's still pretty fast for that. Alright, so there we got our mask now. Something that you can actually do, like to be honest, like I don't need 6K here. I could, before I use the magic mask, before I do anything, I could add a resize node here and put it down to full HD. Keep aspect ratio, I want to make sure, so it's still 16:9. Yeah, and now I'm working with full HD, which means I probably need to does it work? Oh, it actually kept the magic mask. Okay, that's cool. Okay, nice. So yeah, we got our mask now, like I'm all masked out, and that also lets us, for example, I am going to recombine the original footage after the mask. So I'm gonna merge here. I got my magic mask here. And then basically everything I do between these two nodes will affect only the background. Right? Wait, no, I'm not sure. Let's just try it. Let's just add a curve. Color curves here. Let's disable alpha because I don't want to edit the alpha. Okay, it doesn't actually do anything because I need to keep the magic mask in here. Yeah. So basically the footage is getting cut out. It's easier if we show this. So the footage is getting cut out. And then that cutout is being put on top of the background. So yeah, that's what's happening here. So I could also, maybe something that could make sense in this case is to add a lens blur. Actually, I'm going to use the tilt shift lens blur because that gives us more depth. Yeah, so I'm going to put the start point on the bottom here, and I'm also going to use a LUT, like because right now our footage is very flat. So to like just have like a kind of like checking LUT to give it more contrast, I can activate LUT here, and then in the drop down I can select we shot on a black magic, so I can just select one of these LUTs here that make it a bit more contrasty. Maybe I can actually use the red LUT. Oh, it's too bright. Magic, let's see, pocket to video. Yeah, sure, it helps a little bit. Okay.
This has split into two slides. Yeah.
So I don't want this to be too dark. Actually, I don't want this to be dark at all. Maybe just a little bit to make me pop out a little bit more. And then the tilt shaft blur here. Yeah, we can use to add a little bit more depth of field. Let's have a depth preview. So we basically want to fake as if we're looking into the back here. Change. Okay, maybe like more like this. And focus. Focus sweep. I want it to be a little bit out of focus already behind me.
Yeah.
Something like this. Alright. And now, yeah, we can change the intensity of the depth of field with this here. Maybe we shouldn't do it too strong, so it still looks realistic. So yeah, so we basically added depth of field to this shot now, even though the camera didn't shoot it that way. And it looks pretty good, right? It looks pretty realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that honestly looks pretty good. Maybe I'll just do this. Maybe I'll do this for real in the finished commercial. Okay, we got a question here from Wüstenspringmaus. Could I also put the resize before the clip, or when do I put effects before and when after the footage? The resize needs to be after the clip because we want to resize the footage size, right? Like if, yeah, there's not really a way to have that before the clip, because what are you resizing then, right? You need the input, right? Like what would go into the resize. Answers your question? Did that make it clearer? It's nice. Alright guys, any other questions? Anything else I could go into depth? I mean, I could, maybe something that could be useful for you to, I could show you my setup for projects I've done in the past, maybe here for the Space Marine animation, for example. Let's just open that up.
If you have a lot coming and you know you're going to use them, if not, we can do project-wise also. I'm open to both. I don't have any big commitments. I'm open.
Right. So Space Marine here. Okay, we need to relink this footage. And it's actually very easy in Resolve. Because you can see like these clips are red because it doesn't, media offline, it doesn't find the original clip. And to relink is actually pretty easy. You open up the media pool and yeah, you see basically my 3D render is missing. And there's this red little icon here, this link. Click on that, and then it shows you all the folders that are missing. This one doesn't have a name for some reason, but you can just click on locate, and then when you know what folder this footage is in, you can just select that folder. For example, it's current project, Space Marine animation, select folder, and it will almost immediately find all the footage that's missing. There we go. Okay, so probably needs a moment to load everything. I think that's what's happening right now. Hello, where's my footage? Something isn't working here. Footage is coming in, and then we have some errors here. Relight. Oh, is it because, okay, because the channels are not connected anymore for some reason. I'm not super sure why. Okay, so, and, oh, hello, Skylord, what's up? What's up, how are you doing? Okay, so yeah, in Fusion you can select the multi-layer EXR passes also here in the channels, which give you access to advanced tools like volume mask and relight. So I need to, for some reason they disconnected, so I need to do that again. So let me connect all the channels here. Doing great, nice, nice. Are you new to 3D and VFX, or what is your experience? Okay, I'm gonna select my UV maps here. UV and my normals, normal X,
Yeah.
normal Y, normal Z, and then I've also got the positions, position X, position Y,
Yeah.
position Z.
Even without any software knowledge, I can do better.
Yeah, now it seems to work. Now everything seems to go through.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, let me actually disable this toolbar because I don't need it. It just takes away a little bit space. Okay, so I did a few interesting things here with the features that Resolve gives you. First of all, I separated this character, and then I used UV positioning to to put basically noise, right? I just generated this noise here, and I used UV positioning to put that noise on my character, right? So like, because the character, he looked a bit too clean to me, right? Like if we look at it without the noise, like here's the final look. If we disable that, it looks very clean, very shiny, and this adds a little bit of nice detail to it. I felt it needed that to make it feel a bit more realistic. So yeah, that's a very cool thing you could do in post-production with Fusion, using the UV maps to put textures or like detail onto stuff that you didn't have in the 3D render. So that's what I did here. And I used the mask, the difference mask here to have it only on the character, because if it didn't do that, it would be everywhere, right? Like if I disconnect this, I would have that noise everywhere, which actually works pretty well. Having that noise on the floor here actually gives it some realism. I should have done that. I mean, I can still do that. This shot is not finished yet. Interesting. Wait, so let's connect that again. Yeah, I should have totally put that onto the floor too. And the cube. Yeah. All right. Yeah. That actually, honestly, let's just do that right now. Okay, I'm using the relight here too, so I wanna probably have another difference key. So let's create another difference key with all the parts that I want. Oops. For both. A difference key with all the parts that I want to have the noise on.
Yeah.
Difference key. Oh yeah, like this. Not the difference key. I thought we just tried out the 3D key and that one worked pretty good. So let's use the 3D key. Put our object ID pass in there. And then I want it on my character. I want it on the cube. Okay, I can't do multiple, so I need multiple 3D keys. Okay, so first I'm gonna disable the softness. Perfect. Yeah, no softness. And then I'm gonna use a multi-merge actually. Multi-merge. Oh, wait, actually before I do that, I want only the alpha. Is there a way for it to only show me the matte?
Yeah, that's I can do.
No. Okay, so I guess final composite. And then I wanna... It would be easier if it showed me only this object as a mask. Can I do that somehow? I guess that's why I used the difference key. Maybe I need to invert alpha. Let's see. Invert alpha. Okay, I'm also learning right now. Apply, process. Okay, now all of this doesn't do what I need. Okay, so I guess the way would be to use alpha highlight black and white, and then use a multi-merge. And then I'm going to basically merge all the different masks that I want this together. I'm going to duplicate this, feed it in here, put this in the multi-merge, and select the cube. That should work, right?
And I call it.
Nice, yeah. We got the cube here. Okay, multi-merge. And then just make sure that multi-merge merges all of them together by using the operation multiply. There we go. Okay, so one more node for the floor, because I also want it on the floor. Let's put that in here and draw on the floor like that, and then multi-merge again. We got multiply here. We need to multiply here. Okay, nice. Now we got the cube, the floor, and the robot. Nice, okay, and then now we can use this as the mask for the UV positioning. I think we need to invert. Yeah, we probably need to invert the mask. Oh, that seems to work. Does it? Sure. It's not using, it's using luminance. Invert. There we go. Now we have the dirt on, yeah, now we have the dirt on everything. The cube, the floor, and our character. Yes. Very nice. Yeah, that actually adds a lot of realism if we just have a slight noise on these surfaces. Very cool. Skylot says, using Blender for some months now. Ah, nice. Okay, so if you know the basics of Blender, very nice. What software is this? This is Resolve Fusion. It's the software I use for compositing my 3D renders that come from Blender, like this one. Okay, cool. Yeah, so now we've got all of our noises on all these objects. Very nice. Okay, yeah, so what else can I show you in here? We got light rays. These light rays, I think they're coming in later. Yeah, basically just like slight light rays coming from this explosion. Then I've got all these glows here to like make everything feel very intense. A little bit of prism blur. Prism blur gives you a little bit of chromatic aberration, like you can see it here if I disable that. It's much sharper, but it helps with CG renders to make them feel a little bit more realistic. Yeah. Yeah. I actually want to see how this looks now with the noise everywhere, how much more realistic it looks. Yeah, I think it definitely added a lot, but also for the floor here. Very cool. Alright. Damien asked, do you use Nuke? I used Nuke in the past, when I was, yeah, I guess I was doing like a whole short film visual effects with Nuke, just to like try it out to see if I like the workflow. And I did like it, but back then I was using also HitFilm a lot, and HitFilm was just like speed-wise much better for me. Like I felt like I was getting a bit better results with Nuke, like a little bit more detailed, but it was also pretty slow. Like the rendering and everything was pretty slow. So, and HitFilm was almost instantaneous with rendering and everything. So yeah, I didn't feel like using Nuke that much more. Only when I started trying out Fusion in Resolve, I saw kind of like the potential of having this workflow hybrid, right? Like having Fusion inside of Resolve gives you so much possibilities to like work together with editing and just like work on huge projects in a very effective way. So that's why I then tried out Fusion again, and I felt like it was a bit faster than Nuke, and capability-wise, it was very similar to Nuke. So yeah, I just chose Fusion, I guess. But I could totally composite and work in Nuke. Fusion and Nuke are very, very similar. Counter-Strike. I got invited for Counter-Strike. This is Ali, I think. Polak and Adi. Ah, Adi, not Ali. I need someone I can work with to increase my 3D knowledge. Oh, hey, Skylord, I would definitely recommend you joining my Discord server then, because I'm doing these live streams every day. And yeah, I'm basically, especially for you, I think, since you're a beginner and you did it for a few months now, like I'm offering a student membership. You can try it for free for 7 days and see if it helps you. So yeah, just like drop on by. I mean, all the live streams are free anyways, right? So I'm very happy to like, yeah, give you feedback and stuff while we're doing the live streams. But I would definitely recommend you trying out the 7-day trial student membership. I think the link to my website is on my TikTok profile. So if you go on there, you can go on the website and just check out everything, join the Discord server, check out the Patreon. Yeah. I would really like you to be on there. Okay, so I guess, guys, I'm just gonna wait until this preview render is done here. Then we're gonna watch it. And yeah, then I'm gonna end the beginner course and we're gonna start with the Create Together stream after that, where I usually go through student submissions. I don't think we have any student submissions today. Yeah, no new student submissions. One more reason, Skylord, to get a student membership, because there's not many people sending in their submissions yet, so I have a lot of time to work on your submissions if you send in stuff. Oh yeah, while this is happening, actually, the rendering, you noticed maybe that we have this red bar that's getting slowly blue, and that basically means that Resolve automatically detects that there's a heavy scene, and it tries to like calculate that in the cache so you can play it back in real time. But for Resolve to actually do that, you need to go to playback, and then here in render cage, smart. And smart it's actually pretty smart. Yeah, it will see when something is hard to render and then cage that so you can play it back in real time. Gaylord says he will try it. All right, thank you. Very excited to see you on there. Damien asks, Powers, how does Resolve handle RAM, CPU, and GPU usage? Resolve pretty much uses everything. I'm not sure how much it uses multi-GPU because I have 2 GPUs and I'm not sure how much it uses both of them, but you can totally select both of them in here in the settings. And I have only my second GPU selected because I want to have my first one empty for live streaming and stuff. Like I don't want to I don't want my PC to crash because I'm using it too much, because I'm doing a lot of especially when I'm live streaming at the same time. I want it to not crash, right? But yeah, you can select how much of your RAM Resolve and Fusion uses. And I think it works in the way where, Fusion basically uses a part of the Resolve budget, right? Like if I lower the Resolve budget, the Fusion budget will also go down. So that means if you use Fusion inside of Resolve, you will not have as much RAM as if you use standalone Fusion, which is a downside. Standalone Fusion is actually also really good, a little more stable and a bit faster. But I just like the workflow of having Fusion directly in Resolve a lot, because as I said before, like having this timeline layer editor is still very useful. Like you can see here, like I added my impact frames and some more stuff on top of it, which is easier in a layer-based editing instead of doing it all in Fusion. So yeah, it's very cool to just have this hybrid of layer editing and node editing. Oh, that's weird. I see the noise moving around in the beginning there. But in general, it looks better. I gotta figure out why it's moving. Do, 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 do. Pew, 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 pew. Any more question, anyone? I'm not sure if actually anyone came from Meetup. Did anyone from is anyone from Meetup who's currently watching? I'm just like interested in kind of like if it's even worth posting the events on Meetup if no one actually shows up who is um, signing up there. Guess not. Skylo just came across my life. Okay, nice. Wüstenspringmaus. Wüstenspringmaus, you're from Meetup. Okay, nice. Alright, yes, as long as one person shows up from Meetup, it's still worth it. I'll still post it there. We're almost done with pre-rendering here. Alright, let's play it. Phew. Nice. Yeah, I'm really happy how this turned out. It feels pretty epic. Especially the disintegration at the end. I'm so happy how that looks. It's exactly how I imagined it. I wanted it to be. So sick. Alright, guys. Yeah, I think that's it then. That's it for the student beginner course. Not the student beginner course, the Resolve and Fusion beginner course. How did you create those? Actually, I'm gonna create a whole video around how I created this whole shot. Because yeah, I think it turned out pretty cool. So I'm gonna create a whole video explaining how I did everything. Corners. Yes. So let me send you the link to my website for anyone who isn't like on the Discord server or on the Patreon or whatever. You can check out my school here on this website and yeah, get some more info, see what it's about. Maybe you want to join the student membership. It's a 7-day trial too, so you can just like try it for free for 7 days and see if my teaching approach, my mentorship helps you in any way. Yeah, no harm. All right, and with that, I'm gonna say goodbye for now. I will be back in around 20 minutes for the Create Together stream, where we usually go through student submissions. So if any of you want me to look at your stuff and give you feedback and also like work on your project files with you together, send it in now so I can download it and we can work on it together. That's it for now. Yeah, I'll see you in 20 minutes. And with that, I'm gonna say goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye, bye, bye. Oh no, what is happening to me? Oh no. So funny every time.